Hi and welcome back to David Pattinson's Accused Friends. I wanted to do a video today asking the question of under what conditions would big government not be the solution to a particular problem. And if you were to ask this question to the kind of oracles of the Conservative Party, people like David Cameron or John Major, Ken Clarke, Ian Duncan Smith, Michael Heseltine, Theresa May, those kind of people, if you were to go up to them and you'd have to paraphrase with the words hypothetically speaking, because they just shut you down immediately if you just came out with it. You might even want to wear a t-shirt that says hypothetically speaking, so you make it clear it's a total hypothetical question, and you say to them look, hypothetically speaking, what kind of problem could we have? What kind of hypothetical problem could we have that big government would not be the solution? And I can promise you that they would look at you like you were literally out of your mind. They'd never even comprehend even answering the question because they'd never heard that kind of question before. In their worldview, big government is the only solution to every single problem, period. No exceptions. No concept of small government solutions or individuals solving their own problems. For these kind of people, big government is all. It's panacea. It's where it's at. It can only be massive government intervention in order to solve any kind of problem. And the British government now has reached the point where they're generating problems that they can then solve and take political credit for. And when I was young, the Conservative Party was kind of the party of, very limited government, and Labour was the party of big government. And now in 2020, the Conservative Party is the party of ginormous government, and the Labour Party does all it can to just keep up with the size of government intervention and just try to speak out and say, no matter how big the Conservatives get, we'll always be bigger. But, I don't think even the Labour ancestry like Neil Kinnock and Tony Blair could ever have dreamt that Labour could be so intrusive as to match today's Conservative Party. But I wanted to, bring this sort of question to people's attention and relate it to some of the events that have happened, certainly over the course of my life following, British current affairs. I remember back kind of in the early 1990s, must have been around about 93, 94, there was this massive story about the hole in the ozone layer. This was my sort of first introduction to global warming, and we had this massive hole in the ozone layer, and everyone had to sort of panic about it and be in fear of it, and only sort of big government, worldwide government could kind of come in and solve it. And I remember we were at school and the teacher was sort of telling us about it and pointing up to the sky and saying there's a big hole in the ozone layer up there, and I was sort of saying, like, the sky doesn't look that different to me, and she was saying, no, Pattinson, you go and stand in the corner if you're not going to listen to this important lesson. And, still here, kind of 25 years on, I still don't think there's a hole in the ozone layer. No one ever talks about it these days, whereas back then it was this major sort of crisis. As far as global warming goes, it's one of these things that the government love, Conservative Party love. They've got the kind of green logo now because they want to tell everyone about global warming, such a big crisis. The royal family have not only jumped on the bandwagon, I mean, they're driving the bandwagon now. Prince William's out there saying, he struggles to even sleep at night because the climate crisis is so grave and so dire. I mean, I remember back when Al Gore was telling us we had 10 years left to save the planet. It's like back in 2004. And he was getting paid $175,000 a speech back then to tell people this. And, it was all a ruse to promote big government, to divert resources from the people to big government. And that's the whole point of the issue. It's to empower the powerful at the expense of the people. If the climate crisis or global warming was such a important issue that kept Prince William up at night, What's he doing telling the British people about it? Why doesn't he go and tell China about it? Why doesn't he move over to Shanghai and tell the billion Chinese people that they need to do something about it, rather than just the 70 million British people? Why does Prince Harry move to California and marry Meghan from Los Angeles? Why does he not move to Bombay and marry an Indian girl and tell a billion people over there about the climate crisis? Why does it have to be us? Why do we have to pay for the cost of the problem when other people get the benefit of the solution? Why do we not get the benefit of the solution when other people need to pay the cost? Surely that's what British leadership should be. It should be about saving us the cost, but passing the cost on to other countries. We had that big story kind of around about the late 90s to the sort of mid-early 2000s about Africa, and we got to feed everyone in Africa, and Bob Geldof and Bono were telling everyone we got to feed everyone in Africa. So Africa get the benefit of food, but why do we get the cost? Why can't Saudi Arabia pay for the cost? Why can't Pakistan pay for the cost? Why can't Germany pay for the cost? Why can't France pay for the cost? Why does it have to be us? Why do we have to pay the cost but not the benefit? We had the war on terror, which was another big government project where, any kind of terror attack like the 7/7 bombings was, or the 5/75 or whatever it was, 5/5, was just another example of why we needed the war on terror. But now, of course, you have terror attacks, and instead of it being an example to resume the war on terror, it's an example of why we need to ignore terror attacks. I mean, we had the Reading attacks just down the road here a couple of months ago. We had the guy getting his head cut off in Paris about a week ago. Where are the tanks? Where are the F-16 fighter jets going out to the Middle East to, defend us in the war on terror? Oh, well, sorry, David, we're too busy dealing with other problems now. We have the coronavirus. It's another big government project that only big government can solve. We have the Me Too, sexual harassment in the workplace crisis that big government want to get involved in to regulate all these workplace interactions through the Crown Prosecution Service, all because of Harvey Weinstein back in the 1990s, that none of the multi-millionaire actresses that mentioned it, at the time, or wanted to go to the police at the time. They all wanted to come forward when it was part of a political project funded and organised by big government. So there's a lot of hypocrisy all over the place with these big government initiatives. I think they're a bunch of fraud, and I think we'd be much better off if the government just left everyone alone. I think the royal family jumping on the bandwagon with all this climate hysteria is solely for their benefit. It is certainly not for the benefit of you and me. I mean, Princess Eugenie was out there this week talking about how much respect she has for people that overcome slavery, but yet at the same time we've got millions of British young people being put into debt slavery by Rishi. Why aren't you mentioning that? These young people in Britain will not be able to get her respect for overcoming slavery because the debt will be too massive. The 4 trillion in debt imposed on young people will be too massive. We had the lady in Barnsley, very, very well-spoken, smart lady, who said, all this debt that we're undertaking will be passed on to our young people, and she'll be dead and they'll be left to pay it off. And people are saying this lady needs to be Prime Minister. I've been saying this stuff for years and years. I mean, I've been saying it particularly loudly since April 1st. I don't know if that means I should be Prime Minister, but, this nice lady in Barnsley is not alone in that opinion. And it's great that more and more people are coming out against, all this big government fraud, all this big government tyranny that we are experiencing. So I want to end this video, I suppose, by answering the question to the video, which is, under what scenario would big government not be the solution to a particular problem? And I think that problem is runaway debt, runaway government spending. I'm sure David Cameron or Boris Johnson would want to have a big government solution to this problem, but we have a government that is too big. We have a government that we cannot afford. Government can only spend what it takes in taxation. We have a declining tax base, but because we have declining employment, We have increasing debt, so more of our tax base goes to paying interest on debt, and yet we still spend more. We still spend more and more and more. Rishi out there announcing more bailouts, more furloughs this week, trying to save jobs. But of course, these jobs are well beyond saving. We should just be honest now. We should have been honest from the start, to be honest. But big government's not going to be honest with the people. But yeah, that's the one example I have where big government is not the solution. We cannot afford the government we have. It needs to be massively constrained, and we need to get rid of the current government. So I hope you like this video and it's provided some food for thought. Let's look out for these fear-based, hysteria-based issues that are all intangible. They're usually things that can't be measured. How can you measure terror? How can you measure a virus? How can you measure harassment in the workplace? These are sort of enemies hiding in the darkness, hiding in the shadows to keep you in fear, and only big government can come in and protect you, and it's a load of total and complete nonsense. So I hope you like this video. Please subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you soon.